All right, crew, getting ready to head out to Wisconsin for a season turkey hunt. It's going to be a really quick hunt for us here. I got to work, and I drew a Montana deer tag, so I do not have any personal days that I'm going to be able to take off this spring. So we are driving out Friday night. We're hoping to get there by 7:30 this evening. Get real lucky. Maybe we'll be able to roost a bird tonight or see some birds on a field. We got permission on a couple of pieces of private out there. So we're going to be able to get on private farms, do some hunting. All day Saturday, we'll hunt Sunday morning, and then it's time to head for home. So it'll be a real quick trip out and back. All right, first day in Wisconsin. It's just getting light. We haven't heard a gobble or anything yet. We got here last night, about an hour before dark. We were able to drive around, saw a bunch of toms, just single toms walking around. We watched one go up in these woods over here. We're about 60 yards from the property line, and I think he's back in that next piece of woods. Again, depends how far he went into the woods, if he went way up to the top or if he just went in and roosted right on the edge. But we know there's birds here. My dad saw birds in this spot on Wednesday and on Thursday. So we're gonna let her get a little bit more daylight, see if we can get something to gobble. I'm in here with no decoys, but I did remember my turkey lounger chair this time, so got a nice comfortable spot to sit. I just don't like my setup at the moment, but it's the only way I can be out on the edge where he was seeing birds. I can get back in another couple 100 yards, I think, and actually have a nicer setup, but for now we're gonna stay here until we hear something or until we get bored and want to start walking. All right, stay tuned. Saturday, May 2nd. We got a bird gobbling that way. We also got birds gobbling up on top of the hill, so I think I'm gonna sit right here for now. Even though I don't know what I think about the spot we're in. They came in and they cleared out this wood line, and the raspberry bushes came up just thick, and I can't see anything over that direction, which I don't like. It totally handcuffed. I just don't know if there's anywhere else I can move. So I think we'll stick it out here for now, and hopefully they come right in. We got a little bit of standing corn that the owner of this land planted as a food plot for the deer, so we'll see. Back there too. That bird behind us is the closest bird. He's not far away at all. All right, I'm not gonna talk real loud, but I just had a bird gobble right on top of me. And I could not see him. I heard him drag his wings. I heard him drum once. And I sat for probably another 20 minutes, half hour. He wouldn't gobble again. Gobbled at the first call I made. And he was so loud, I'm sure he was in range. But I could not see him. I'm sitting in that spot where I can't really tell exactly, but I can, this little corner here, and there's a food plot of corn that they had planted for the deer. I don't know if there's anything left on it, but it's standing corn. And he gobbled somewhere right in here behind me. And if I had been sitting up on top of this ridge, I think I would have killed that bird. But I could not see over the top of the hill. And I'll show you the garbage I'm sitting here trying to look through. When you're down, sitting down, all these blackberry and raspberry bushes, they cut a bunch of trees off of this edge and then left all the trees lay, and all those bushes are growing up through it, and just a tangled mess, and I can't see at all. So I don't know, I think I need to get back in, so I think I'm gonna pick up my chair. There's, like I said, a single hen back here. I spooked her, never saw any other birds with her, so I'm gonna very slowly work my way back. Back here in the woods, it seems pretty quiet. Out on the edge there, it's just such a tangle of stuff that it's really loud, so I'll try to move back in about 200 yards, and I don't know, it's so frustrating. That bird was right there. For him to be drumming and dragging his wings and me able to hear that, he had to be under 40 yards. Everything has went really quiet since fly down. Whew. Been doing a lot of running this spring. 3-4 days a week. I'm in pretty good shape. That's a heck of a climb. Holy man. Wow, we're gonna head to the other end of this farm, which is about a half a mile long. Oh, there's nothing gobbling over here at all. They were gobbling hard on the roost, but once they flew down today, it's just one of those days where private land, public, it doesn't matter. Like I said, there's a big piece of private. They hit the ground and they're done gobbling. It makes it tough to hunt them. I'd rather be running public land and having a bunch of gobbling birds than trying to hunt private, where it's supposed to be much easier, right? You know, no other hunting competition, non-pressured birds, and it just doesn't matter if they're not gobbling. If you're not able to get a response out of these birds, it makes hunting them tough. Wasn't even looking for that, almost stepped on it. Broken off brow tine. Nice little 8-point side. All right, well, like I said, we're in the process of moving to the other side of the farm. I can't buy a gobble. Had that bird on top of me at 6:45 in the morning, gobbled hard, one time only. And at 7:45, an hour later, heard 2 distant gobbles. And that's all. Not a single gobble since then, so I don't know where the birds are. If they're, I mean, are they sitting on these ridge tops? Or did they come down the ridges and go to some fields and they're just sitting in the field strutting? But we're gonna pop over this next hill. Maybe we'll get lucky and there's some birds over there, but so far, not seeing anything. One quick tip for you here too, if you are a beginning turkey hunter, I did the math, and this is my 20th season chasing turkeys. Fun fact, in Minnesota, it took me 3 years to draw my first turkey tag 20 years ago. Drawing for a season tag. As northern Minnesota deer hunters, we just assumed opening weekend's got to be the best weekend. So we put in for a season, and it took me 3 years to draw a tag. Now we can go every year, which is amazing. And we're basically able to come to Wisconsin every year as well. Turkey populations are doing well in both states, but I am not sitting right on the edge of the field. If you're out in the sun, right on the edge of the field, you are very likely to get picked off by birds. So I'm not that far back off, maybe 7-10 yards at the most, back in the pines, in the shadows. We're gonna get this face mask put up, and I'll get away with a lot more. I hopefully won't get picked off by a bird if one just steps out across the field from me. But if I'm out there and I'm lit up in the sun, you are gonna get picked off by turkeys, especially if you got them coming in. You know, at some point you're gonna have to pull the shotgun up, you're gonna have to move, and they will pick you off. Kind of a bust here. It's gotten really windy. We're gonna go back to the truck. I'm walking up to my daddy's on the other end of this farm. Go drive around, see if we can locate a bird. I think that's just gotta be our best bet. We've seen a ton of toms driving around. And that public land spot I was on earlier today, honestly, that's the best spot I've been on. If we can at least find some birds, get a plan for tomorrow if we don't make something happen tonight. But we've been sitting on this farm a couple hours now, have not heard a gobble, have not seen a bird. So doing some calling as I walk. Changed hats, thought maybe I could put my lucky hat on and that would work, but so far that has not done the trick. All right, real quick, we're going back in the spot we were this afternoon. There's 3 birds out on that field. They're big, they're black. Couldn't tell exactly what they were, but there's got to be at least 2 toms in there, just judging by the looks of them. Same spot they were in this afternoon. 6:30 at night. We know they're not going to roost on the field, so hopefully they're coming back in the pines to roost. Get up in there. Every time we would get out and drive down the road, we were seeing turkeys. We saw single toms walking around all throughout the midday hours. And about a half an hour before sunset, we found this flock of turkeys getting ready to go back up to the roost. Unfortunately, none of these birds were in places where we could hunt. This flock had 3 toms, 2 jakes, and 2 hens. I think we got some jakes back here. Sure sounds like a jake. I think he's coming down the hill. Last morning. It sounds like the jake is right on the edge of the field. And the toms are up the hill. We had 2 toms roosted right behind us this morning. were right up the hill. Jake was right on the edge of the field. They were receptive to my calling, answering back and forth. They'd gotten quite a bit closer from when they first gobbled. A pair of deer came around the corner, and that stupid deer sat there and blew and blew and blew and wouldn't shut up. And then the deer ran up the hill, and I haven't heard a peep since. There's a single hen out here in the corn, but she's been out there all morning. But the flock, there's gobblers, there were some jakes, and I heard hens off the roost, so I'm sure they got a bunch of hens with them, but they were coming down the hill, coming out to this corn to feed. I have no idea where they went. Back over the hill, I guess, but they haven't gobbled, they haven't made a noise. All right, real quick, I realize I didn't do a lot of good narrating at this point. Quite honestly, we got our butts kicked all day on Saturday, and I was, at this point, assuming I was going to eat that tag, and we were going home empty-handed. My dad was hunting on the same field, so I didn't want to get down and screw anything up for him either. But at 7 o'clock, I decided I'm done sitting in this blind. I need to get up and I need to find turkeys. I set the blind up because it rained at about 5:30, and we got lucky and just clipped the bottom of the system. If we were up, you know, even 10 miles to the north, I think we would have got some pretty heavy rain there for about 15-20 minutes. But we dodged most of the rain, had birds coming. Those deer scared the birds away. So 7 o'clock, I couldn't handle it anymore. It was time to go up the hill and find those birds. And I called up a beauty up there on the ridge, several hundred yards down from where we were sitting. And it was, I'm sure, the same group of birds we were on that morning. They gobbled on one side of the ridge. Next thing I know, they gobbled from the other side of the ridge. They somehow walked around. There's a little trail that comes up and over. They must have walked that trail up and over and came down the north side. Because next thing I know, I'm sitting alongside a deadfall, expecting the birds to be on my left. And this bird comes up the ridge from the right. Great big tom, 55, 60 yards out. I don't have a shot. And he is in full strut. And then he stops when he gets to the crest of the ridge, and he won't move. A hen comes up and over, walks to him, walks past him. My Tacticam will run for 10 minutes before it'll pause, like stop the video and start a new video, and it buzzed and then ran for I don't know how much longer. He sat there and strutted for almost 20 minutes. I decided I had to call at him, and it kind of startled him a little bit when I called. Like, he actually jolted, same as if you startle a person. And then I don't know if it was a jake or if it was the other tom. I never saw it, and it flapped its wings, like stood up, stretched, flapped its wings, and started headed away. And that tom, I mean, they left, and that was the end of that. And I was pretty dejected because you do almost everything right. You locate the birds, you call them back into you. Huge strutter comes up the hill, and you just can't seal the deal. I located a group of like 4 or 5 jakes across the next field. And I thought about making a move on them. I really debated on it. And I finally just said, I gotta start headed back toward where my dad was. I told him we would hunt till 10. And on the way back to where my dad was, a bird gobbled. And I was able to get in and get set up on him. And again, I didn't do a real great job narrating this, but I set up. He was losing interest. I moved up top of the ridge. It was so windy, I could barely hear him. And I didn't like that setup, so I slid back around and crept forward up on the next little knob, just over the knob where I knew he couldn't see me moving around, and maybe pushed it a little bit. But when I made that move, this is what happened. We got one gobbling at every noise we make, and he's coming, I think. But he's got to crest the top of this ridge, and I got to stay back here in the shade as best I can. Got him. Yes! Oh, I don't know if the camera is going to show that. I was sitting right behind those two oaks. He crested the hill. All I could see was that big red head. He's gobbled 150 times in the last hour. Oh my God, look at the size of him. That's a big bird too. Whoa! Chill, 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 chill. Up ahead, there we go. You don't even know. Oh my gosh. I blew it on a tom this morning. He came up at 60 yards, strutted, strutted, strutted. Wouldn't break that 60-yard mark. We didn't get him. I don't know if it was a jake or a smaller tom was with him, and that bird, I called and it turned and started going away, and he just, it wasn't coming any further than that. And there was a bunch of jakes. I thought about going after them, and I just decided to leave them. I texted my dad and told him I'm walking back, and this bird gobbled on his own. I know you can't tell, but that's about 120 feet down, according to Onyx. And he was over on that next side hill, and I was down this side hill. And I called, and he gobbled at anything. He was so hot and fired up, and he has got some spurs on him. He is not a 2-year-old bird either. Oh my gosh. And I moved around the top of this ridge, and I called, but it was so windy over there that I couldn't tell. I could barely hear him, and I didn't like the setup, so I moved back around again, and then he got fired up, and there's a little saddle up top here, and he came all the way up around and then came down this saddle, and I just popped him at 15 yards. Whew, what a weekend. Said we were gonna hunt till 10. It's probably 9 o'clock Sunday. We get to go home with the bird in the truck, and we did it. No decoys, running and gunning, calling them in. The same call that I called my Minnesota bird in with. And I don't know if he saw me because his head was way stretched, and when I moved my gun, his head started to go back down, but too late. Yeah, we got some good 1.25 at least spurs. Don't really care about the beards, but nice beard on him. And oh man, I don't know how many times this old boy gobbled this morning, but what a hunt. Exactly how a turkey hunt's supposed to be. Hey, that is the way it is supposed to happen. A Wisconsin ridgetop gobbler. I'm a good, I don't know, according to Onyx, a good 120 or more feet above the edge of the field right now. And I had the toms coming in this morning. He was gobbling, he was receptive to everything I was throwing at him. There was a jake down on the edge that kept doing those little jake gobbles and some jake yelps, just that, and you could very clearly tell it was a jake. These birds were roosted over here on this ridge, and I hunted till 7 in the blind after a deer came through and blew and snorted and scared all the turkeys back up the ridge. And got on those other birds, called that bird up the ridge, but he stopped at 60 yards, and that was it. He wasn't coming any closer. And then there were some jakes, like I said, and I didn't want to mess with them, so I came back after him. But hey, you don't need decoys. Let's be clear on that. I see a lot of people online talking like it's difficult to kill a bird without decoys. You know what? Sometimes it's an advantage not having decoys. You get those birds to come looking for you. You get those birds to come searching. They don't just see a decoy, pop into strut and stand at 75 yards, especially these field birds, especially these birds in states that get heavily pressured. Wisconsin, you can shoot multiple turkeys in Wisconsin. If you're a resident, you get an A season tag, you can buy a leftover C season tag, a leftover D season tag, and you can buy one tag a day all the way through, and you can just hunt if you want. So these birds get pressured. Even on private land, these birds get pressured. We're on a different farm than we were on yesterday. Yesterday, the birds gobbled like crazy on the roost. I got one to gobble right on top of me after they hit the ground about 45 minutes later. And then we barely heard a gobble the rest of the day. A few here and there, but not receptive birds. Rained a little bit this morning. The pressure is actually low this morning. Maybe it's risen now, maybe it's rising, and that's what got these birds fired up. But man, we got gobbles. They gobbled, honestly, about right at shooting light. They only gobbled for 10 minutes on the roost, flew down. But boy, we've been able to get on them. We've been able to get them fired up. And it's open air fishing next weekend, so we can go home, get all the turkey hunting stuff and the shotguns put away, and get the fishing poles out of the closet. So summer's on the way, and we are tagged out in Minnesota, or sorry, we're tagged out in Minnesota, but we're tagged out in Wisconsin as well. Switched back to my old NWTF hat, and maybe that was the lucky hat this morning. Oh, I sure hope that showed up on film, but I got a feeling you're not going to see much other than just his big red head. So that's where I initially sparked him up. And as you see, there's just this big bowl here, and he wouldn't cross it. He was up here gobbling, gobbling, gobbling. And I could tell he started to lose interest because all of a sudden the gobbles got further away, and I think he started going over that hill. So I looped around because I knew he couldn't see me. And I called some more. And I was able to get him to gobble, but it sounded so distant. Like I said, I think he was losing interest and was going over that ridge. So then I came all the way back around up in here. And when I got him to gobble then, that fired him up, and he came right around that whole saddle top, popped his head over the top of the ridge. That's all there was to it. Sometimes you got to use that topography, stay just below the ridge. And you know, it's tough because you got to call them over the ridge. You know, you're not taking a 40-yard shot at a bird. You're calling them over the top of the ridge, and the second you see them, it's pull the trigger. But boy, that is a rush listening to them gobble at 40, gobble at 20, poke their head over at 15, and it's all over.